When hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. Release restraint level 0. Hey kids, wanna see a dead body?
Hey guys, this is the Void of the Ravenclaw. Welcome back to another fanfiction story. If you like this type of content, smash the like button and subscribe for future updates that I do post on my community tab frequently. Now, before we begin our story, I mentioned in my last video my phone kinda broke on me, so I lost a lot of scripts I was working on, so it's going to take some time to recreate them. They'll probably be a tad bit different, but I'm going to have to recreate them because I'm not going to get a new phone until later in the week. So that's what's going on right now. Now let's get on with our story. As we start our story off, or continue our story, in Old Gotham, in the inner chambers of the ancient temple in Old Gotham, where the unpure Lazarus Pit is located. As all for one step through the portal and walk towards the strange looking pool of water, cautiously. So this is what a Lazarus pit looked like. At first glance, it looks nothing special. It's a shame we can't get a hold of the Lazarus Pit that the League of Assassins has access to, but this is the best next thing. Kirigiri, I want this transported somewhere safe. If you have to warp the entire temple to do so, then do it. I want this Lazarus Pit in a safe location. I was hoping my best with just healing my injuries, but this Lazarus Pit can do far more than just heal me. It could actually revert me back to my prime. This changes things, Kirigiri. As you command, Master. Kirigiri clapped his hands together in a portal that... Kirigiri clapped his hands together and portaled the entire temple out of Old Gotham into one of their most hugest abandoned base they have somewhere in the wilderness. That's technically, it's inside Mount Fuji. Excellent job. Now I'm just have to wait for the results back from the doctor. Then I could take a little dip. Several hours later, you can see All for One getting ready to take a nice little dip in the weird looking pool of liquid. All for One slowly walks into the Lazarus Pit, still wearing his suit, and submerge himself. Only for a few moments later, as All for One emerge from the pool of water while ripping off his mask or his helmet and taking a deep breath, breathing normally for the first time in a long time. The only reason All for One wasn't affected by the Lazarus Pits when you first emerge Lazarus is known to give people madness, but All for One was already mad, so he didn't really see much of a difference. As you can see, a completely healed and much younger All for One, with pure white hair, with red eyes, his face formed into a devilish smile. All for One looks like he's back in his 20s. All for One was so pleased, he started to cackle. That cackle eventually turned into full-blown laughter. Kirigiri waited for his master to compose himself. He doesn't wish to interrupt his master. He's seen some people that had the unpleasant of doing so in the past, and it never ended well for them. When All for One stopped laughing, Kirigiri spoke up. "Sir, I have news." All for One stepped out of the Lazarus pit. "What do you have for me, Kirigiri?" Metropolis is being attacked by some sort of alien life form, calling himself Brainiac. Deku has been seen flying into the mothership of the alien spacecraft. From what spies we do have in Metropolis. Perfect. As he walked over to the throne-like chair and sat down, that was built into the main chamber of the temple. As you can see, monitors all around the walls. He immediately picked up the remote that was on the arm of his throne and pressed play on the television to see what's going on in Metropolis in the United States. As he sat down and placed his knuckles on the side of his face and has his elbow resting on the arm of his throne, chair, basically, what I'm trying to say. If I recall, Alpha should be close enough to that position. Alpha was ordered by the young mistress to stay out of sight and keep an eye on Deku. What else do you know what's been going on in Metropolis that I'm not aware of? Kirigiri showed All for One some footage from the fight between Parasite, Metallo, between Superman and Deku, and Supergirl. As we cut back to Deku's location, where he's about to approach the 3 Brainiac bots that is clearly standing in his way, aiming their very advanced laser rifles at him. They immediately open fire upon Deku. The young ice user created a ice katana in his right hand and sliced through all of the beams of energy as he calmly walks towards the 3 Brainiac bots that are still opening fire upon Deku, and Deku's just simply slicing through the lasers. Once he got into range, while walking and cutting through the laser beams, he instantly cut down all 3 of the Brainiac bots by swinging once, but in reality, he swung several times. His swing was so fast that the Brainiac bots couldn't keep up. Deku proceeded to walk past them as the Brainiac bots are sparking until all 3 of them blew up at the same time as the door shuts behind Deku. He followed the pathway that led him to an elevator that only goes further down with no other option. He could either take the elevator down, then find a way up to climb to the higher levels of the spacecraft, or go through the small opening in the ceiling of the elevator cart. Then he could proceed to scale upward to the elevator shaft. But Deku has no desire to do so. Stealth is already not an option anymore. Nor is he in a big hurry. So he entered the elevator and pressed the button on the panel as the elevator took him down. When the elevator finally stopped, he found himself in some sort of factory area of the mothership. Whatever materials Brainiac is mining comes through here. That goes through the tendrils into this chamber of a room. Deku decided to have a little bit of fun and start shooting ice beams out of the palm of his hands. The very, very expensive looking machinery. Also throwing... Oh, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. Also, he launched several sharp ice weapons all around the big room. Ice shards, basically. Bigger than normal than he created. By doing that, several Brainiac recon droids, I think basically sensor droids, come through the room trying to locate and eliminate the threat, only to get shot down, get pierced by ice right through their big only lens sorry. The drones, the recon drones have one eye. I think I mentioned them in the last part. One lens for eye, basically. Around. They float around. Think of recon droids from Star Wars or other, related sci-fi stuff. A sharder ice goes right through the big lens in the middle of the head of the floating ball. Remaining ones open fire. Deku proceeds to dodge and weave around them, then shooting off ice beams out of the palm of his hands, freezing the robots, then immediately chopping up the pieces before they hit the ground. Deku stands in the middle of the room. That's completely destroyed. All of the mining equipment was wrecked, and half-destroyed Brainiac recon droids, or bots, are scattered all around that weren't chopped pieces. As expected. The nanobots are already in the process of fixing all the damage. This is going to be a tad bit more difficult than I originally thought. I see you figured that out. Trying to damage my machines in my ship is completely pointless. As a different looking Brainiac comes hovering downwards from the large entryway up on the roof of the floor that leads to a next floor to the factory. Deku stares up at the three new figures that enter the room, as there's three Brainiac bots that look exactly like Brainiac hovering down as they're staring unemotionally at Deku. As Deku's very cautious. This is something he never knew Brainiac was able to do. May not be able to damage any of your machinery because of those nasty little nanobots, but I'm guessing this ship's made of it. At least a good portion of it, at least. It's a marvel of technology. We have similar technology here on Earth, not as advanced as yours, but that's to be expected. You are a unknown alien life form. Most likely you're a rogue AI. Some sort of cyborg, I really don't care. But things are not gonna go your way. You know that, right? You seem to be very confident in that. How would you achieve such a feat? You're powerful for a human, but no matter how advanced your ice powers are, you still won't have the necessary power to take me down. You are one, we are many, as all three of the Brainiacs said that at the same time. You are correct there, Brainiac. It seems you're able to copy yourself. Don't know how the process works, but don't really care. Deku knows he's powerful, but not powerful enough to take down Brainiac down all by himself. It normally took his Justice League on his Earth, took the entire team, including Superman and other power hitters, back on his Earth to take down Brainiac. He might be able to take out whatever one of these copies of himself. There wasn't much knowledge on his world about Brainiac that survived, but he did not know Brainiac had the ability to control or transfer bodies like that. But fighting the original body is another story. There's not even a chance he could probably take him down. He could probably keep him occupied, but nothing else. And he's not even confident enough to even believe that that's his actual body. It might be it might be another puppet he's controlling from across the cross of the galaxy. Considering this must be his first appearance on Earth, the Boy Scout and the Blondie are unaware of his abilities, but it can't be helped. He can't do nothing where he's at currently. How would you know how powerful my ice is? It's quite simple, Earthling. I was observing your world before I decided to add one of your cities to my collection. There were only a few of you humans that I took a curious look at. You were among them. After all, it's not very often I come across a human from another Earth. Deku tensed up a little bit from that comment. I don't know what you're talking about, Toaster. Don't play coy with me, human. You didn't think I was unaware that there's many different Earths out there? I am Brainiac, boy. Such knowledge does even come close to what I have access to. The galaxy is a big place, boy. Can easily detect someone from a different Earth, different dimension. You produce a certain power signature. It's a tad bit different than the people on here, on Earth Prime. I'm guessing you somehow cross boundaries. Traveled to this Earth, most likely for survival, no doubt. But that sort of information's not important to me. What's important to me is to know you no longer will interfere in my plans. I normally don't take part in such acts. It is normally beneath me, but these bodies I had created will be efficient enough. Have observed you more than most. You were many of the other life forms on this planet that could be a possible threat. You and those two other Kryptonians somehow made it to this Earth. I was hoping to take you in alive. for a living test subject. But no matter. I could get the same amount of knowledge from a dead one as well. I'll get the data regardless. As all three of the Brainiac extended their hands outwards towards Deku and began to charge up energy in the palm of their hand. Deku, seen as all three Brainiacs getting ready to charge up their beams, Deku got into a sword stance, still holding his ice katana, made with pure ice. As 6 beams shoot out towards Deku, each beam from both of their hands, for all 3 of them, so that would be 8 beams of energy. Sorry, 6 beams of energy. Rained down upon Deku. Deku acted fast, and cutting through the first 2 beams of energy, but was forced to roll out of the way. Beam landed before he went into a roll, where he was prior. The beam was already in process of aiming right for him, as he was forced to block using the blunt end of his ice katana, as the ice weapon begins to crack, and immediately afterwards it shattered. Deku leaping backwards 3 times, and began skidding across the room with ice underneath his feet for fast movement, while beams of energy is getting shot at him by the 3 Brainiac units. You're too slow, as one of the Brainiac caught up to Deku and threw out a punch, forcing the young ice user to block the incoming attack, as he was forced skidding across the ground backwards into the wall of the mining chamber of the spacecraft, as 2 more come flying towards him. Deku unlodged himself from the wall and charged forward himself, and began to dodge and weave around the strikes that the Brainiac units are throwing out at him at the same time. The 3rd Brainiac unit finally rejoined his comrades, or himself, and joined in to attack Deku. Deku is trying to battle 3 different opponents at the same time. It's a tad bit difficult to spar with 3 people. He's getting hit too often. They eventually overwhelmed him, and they were finally able to land a strike, only for one of the Brainiac units to kick him in the side of the face, forcing Deku backwards, but not too far that the 3 Brainiac units are not in range. Deku briefly recovered and launched himself forward and jumped over the Brainiac units that came charging by flipping over them. Deku is currently flipping over the middle Brainiac unit. Deku readjusts his body while in mid-flip and land a spin kick at the back of the head of the Brainiac unit that he just jumped over. Deku briefly caught an incoming fist from the other Brainiac when he landed on the ground and threw him across the room. Deku put up his defenses just in time to block an incoming punch from the 3rd Brainiac that was charging towards him. After the block, Deku leaned to the side to avoid the 2 incoming Brainiac beams of energy. This back and forth would continue. Brainiac using 3 of his spare bodies would attempt to attack Deku by either trying to make physical contact by throwing punches and kicks, or blasting energy beams at Deku out of the palm of their hand. Deku would either block their physical attacks and dodge out of the way of their energy attacks from their beams of energy being shot at him. Despite Deku's best efforts, they managed to surround him on all sides. Deku dodged the first strikes from the front, but was unable to block or avoid the kick that landed on his back, making him step a few steps forward, only to get socked across his face from the front Brainiac unit as he slammed his fist right into his face. Then the third Brainiac unit blasts out a beam of energy out of the palm of his hand, shooting Deku out of the ship, as he began to skid across the street and crashed into a parked car. As the car stopped his momentum, as he's crunched into the metal of the vehicle, the same Brainiac that shot him out of the ship approached above him by floating. As he pointed his hand towards Deku, with his palm extended, charging up a beam of energy, only to see a red and blue blur as he gets struck across the face as Brainiac gets shot backwards into several buildings. You seem to be enjoying yourself, Deku. Extremely. You're a little late to the party. As Deku gave Clark a smirk. I was in a press meeting. I got here as soon as I can. What's the situation? I have Supergirl rescuing the civilians that haven't escaped already. The guy you just punched is Brainiac, apparently. He has the ability to transfer to different bodies and somehow control all three. I don't know how he's doing it. I understand transferring into one body and controlling that body, but controlling technically four at once is insane. Speaking of the devil, they're coming. Clark uses X-ray vision to see nothing but machinery inside the two charging Brainiacs. There's nothing but machinery. That means I can let loose a little. Good to know. I wasn't sure if there were robots or some sort of organic cyborg. I highlight that would be the case, considering their appearance. But I don't know about the one still in the mothership. I suppose I probably should back you up. As Deku unlodged himself from the car and began to proceed to wipe the shattered glass that's on his shoulder from his body. You good to fight? I'm good. I may not have your invulnerability, but I have pretty impressive durability of my own. It looks like the third one has finally came back after you punched him through several buildings. And by the look of it, you managed to damage him. Considering you did all the lead work, I'll handle that one. I'll back you up as soon as I take out the damaged one. Clark only simply nodded and flew towards the two incoming Brainiac bots, or units. I'm just referring them as units, so you guys don't get confused from this a normal Brainiac bot compared to this. Superman was flying off to meet his opponents. Deku was focusing his attention at the damaged Brainiac unit. The Boy Scout did do a number on you, Toaster. Let's finish this, shall we? Deku begins to charge a ice beam in the palm of his hand as Brainiac charged up his own in his remaining hand that's still attached to his frame. His body, basically, if you know what frame is. Basically, if some of you don't know, I don't know, I know a little bit about robotics when it comes to, you know, animes and stuff like that. But beyond that, I don't know nothing about that. So I'm not the knowledgeable, but that's basically what a frame is the body of the robot. I just could have said that and that would have been an easy explanation, but never mind. Let's continue forward. They both release their individual beams of energy. As the two beams collided, as there was a slight power struggle, until Deku forced his beam with a little more power, releasing more power to his ice beam, as his ice beam overtakes Brainiac's energy beam. As it kept going, it overtook Brainiac and covered a couple blocks of the city, completely frozen. As Deku sees a frozen Brainiac unit, as he created an ice bat and smashed the frozen Brainiac. As he begins to shatter the statue, well, frozen Brainiac unit into millions of pieces. Deku turned around to see Superman fighting one of the Brainiac units, and an overly buff blonde man fighting another one. Deku tilted his head to the side at the strange-looking hero. He couldn't hear what the hero was saying. He was too far away. All he could see was All Might hit the Brainiac with 50% of one of his smashes, destroying the mechanical body of Brainiac, changing the weather a tad bit in that area of the city, as there was once a clouded sky which was clear in that little area. Now that's impressive, from a single punch, changing the weather. I guess the Boy Scout doesn't need my help, after all. At least with those two. We still have to deal with the real Brainiac. That's still in the mothership, if that's even the real one to begin with. Going alone would be idiotic. I'll just have to wait for the heroes to finish up their business so we can go after the main boss. Clark was tilting his head to the side, to the right, to the left, dodging several fists coming from his opponent, and slammed a powerful stomach hook into the stomach of the Brainiac unit. As he was tilted off of the ground, a little bit gaining some air, as Clark slammed his other fist into the face of the Brainiac unit. As it goes flying into several buildings, Superman took flight immediately and grabbed it by the throat and charged up and fired his heat vision, cutting right through the mechanical body of Brainiac as the two pieces of Brainiac blew up. As Clark sees Deku watching him fight, as he proceeds to fly towards Deku and land right beside him, as he watched the other fight progress, as All Might is battling his opponent. All Might managed to grab the fist of the remaining surviving Brainiac unit and threw a 20% smash into an uppercut, making Brainiac go airborne. Brainiac proceeds to fall back down because of gravity, as All Might threw a 60% smash, destroying Brainiac into billions of pieces. Good, you're done, Blondie. The main body is still inside that ship, if it's even his main body. That's a possibility. You should keep that in mind, Boy Scout. We can introduce each other later. We have a alien to smash, I guess. Never thought I would be saying that out of my words, Boy Scout, but let's get going. Don't fall behind. As Ice Dragon wings popped from Deku's back as he took flight. As Superman gave chase, while All Might followed by taking large leaps. Superman flew past Deku and smashed his way through the ship, while All Might and Deku followed Superman's lead and went through the hole in the ship that Superman made. While the ship is slowly repairing itself, Deku and All Might made it just in time and made it through the hole before the nanobots finally repaired the damage to the ship right behind them. All Might notice their exit is blocked, and Deku noticed it as well. He noticed it as well. The ship is most likely made of with heavily advanced nanobots. The ship is filled with them. That repairs any damage done to the ship from the outside or inside of the vessel. Wouldn't your cold abilities damage? I believe nanobots are stored in cold temperature areas. That is correct. Normally that would be so. But these nanobots are most likely highly advanced, and they probably don't have that weakness. I haven't seen much of a difference. I would propose to, I guess if I was to theorize it, I would have to produce a very extremely powerful ice beam to officially accumulate any amount of damage on the nanobots that Brainiac has access to. Let's pick up the pace. By the sounds of things, the Boy Scout has found resistance. They both hurried their pace and simply followed the sounds of battle and signs of destruction where Superman was there. When they caught up with Superman, they could see Brainiac bots scattered all around. All three followed the whole way. After they got out of the room, well, they destroyed what's in that room and followed the only pathway further going into the chamber, following a hallway. As Deku, All Might, and Superman seized Brainiac on a throne when they finally got to the heart of the mothership. So you finally arrive, Earthlings and Kryptonian. I don't care who you are or why you came here, you're leaving. Make this easy on yourself and surrender. And why would I do such a unlogical thing as that? This planet is mine. This city is mine. I will do whatever I please to the lower life forms that live in this interesting city. I will shrink it down and add it to my collection. Your actions here today are meaningless. You can't stop me, son of Krypton. Should I say, Kal-El? Deku got a bit impatient, and judging by his opponent, he's going to be monologuing for a while. So he used the chance to throw an ice shard at Brainiac's skull. Brainiac caught the ice shard with one of his tendrils inches away from his head by catching it and tossing it to the side. Nice try, little human. Brainiac got up from his throne and began to hover in the air. As two Brainiac units come into the room and charge Deku and All Might, leaving Brainiac to fight Superman. two Brainiac units got close enough, Deku punched the first one with a good portion of his strength, making the Brainiac unit break through the wall of the ship. Then he proceeded to kick the second incoming Brainiac unit outside of the small hole he just made. Let's go, Blondie. It's way too crowded in here. All Might proceeded to follow Deku by leaping out of the small hole, while Superman came flying in. Well, sorry. Supergirl came flying in to back up her cousin to fight Brainiac. The moment they made it to the ground level, after Deku flew down, as All Might land right next to him, as the ship hull is covered, repaired once again. The moment Deku saw one of the Brainiac units, he immediately charged forward and began to exchange hand-to-hand blows with the copy of Brainiac, while All Might engaged the other Brainiac unit in his own hand-to-hand combat. There is a small shock wave from Deku's fist colliding with the fist of the Brainiac unit. Deku knows fully well this won't be as easy as the last time he fought one of these Brainiac units. The simple fact that the last one was heavily damaged from Superman's impressive punch, being punched and forced the unit to go through several buildings, furthering damaging its frame, making it an easy fight for Deku to handle. But this is a different situation. But Deku is fully confident he could take down this Brainiac unit down, even if it's not damaged whatsoever. Huge shockwave went off when their fists collided from their last attack, and both separate from each other. Deku breathing heavy while the Brainiac unit stared unemotionally from his ice human opponent that shoots ice like he's a natural blizzard in human form. Constance, your continued resistance is unnecessary, human. Your fighting abilities and powers are quite impressive. You're far more involved than your typical lower life form of your species. Deku raised his eyebrow at the talkative Brainiac unit. You're quite talkative. But I can't lie, your abilities are not bad as well. To control so many different bodies all at once while still fighting Superman in your main body is impressive. That's where you're wrong. I'll let you on a little secret. My main body is not on Earth. My main body is far from this place. You actually think I would endanger myself on one of the most dangerous unknown planets. Unknown planet. Your world has been blacklisted for a reason, human. The general population of the galaxy consider your world blacklisted, as I said. Your people are far too primitive and destructive. You're not so unknown to the other species out there in the galaxy. Of course you want to come in your main body. I'm not too surprised on that. I know of you, Brainiac. For you are one of the most cleverest enemies of Superman as he's ever fought. This time Brainiac raised his robotic eyebrow, if he had any eyebrows to begin with, but the facial expression still showed as he raised his unexisting eyebrow at the mention of the Kryptonian being his enemy, like he's on his level. He has a higher intellect. He refused to believe some random Kryptonian would be his equal. Might be from a different Earth, Brainiac. But I highly doubt the history between you and that Kryptonian would change too much. Considering we're on Earth Prime, as you like to call it. You're going to lose, Brainiac, and this won't be the first time you clash with the Boy Scout over there. And I highly doubt there's much of a difference compared to Brainiac from my Earth. Only thing different is the time frame you actually arrived. On my Earth, you showed up much more earlier, before I was even born. Now look at me now, I'm the one who's being talkative now. Let's kick it up a notch. Shall we, Toaster? I don't know what a toaster is or why you keep referring that to me, but I'm guessing it means as an insult. Deku simply smirked at Brainiac, then charged forward, cocking his hand backwards. Deku ducked Brainiac's fist, then slammed his fist into Brainiac's face, making the robot shoot off across the street, only for Deku to appear right behind him and kick him in the back. Upwards, as Brainiac goes airborne. Above Brainiac, as you see Deku slam an axe handle with both of his hands into Brainiac's chest, making Brainiac fly downwards, shooting towards the ground, as spider web cracks would form underneath him from the hard landing he received. While still above him, Deku created a huge ice pillar above Brainiac and swung it downwards using some sort of telekinesis control over his ice, as Brainiac barely stopped the huge pillar of ice smashing him into the street. Brainiac noticed the incoming huge ice pillar and stopped it before it managed to hit him, using his telekinesis to crush the ice pillar into millions of pieces of ice particles as it harmlessly floats to the ground. Then he immediately flew upwards towards Deku and threw out punches and kicks at Deku in midair as they both exchange hits with each other, making small shockwaves of each impact landed. Deku managed to block a left hook, only to get hit by a right hook across the right, on that side of the face. Then got kicked to the ground as he smashed into the city street, making his own spiderweb cracks underneath him. Deku had to roll out of the way of a double stomp from Brainiac when he just straight up flew downwards, ready to hurt him. It wouldn't have felt nice. Deku tried to kick Brainiac's feet from underneath him, only to see Brainiac hover over the leg sweep, then proceed to throw a kick of his own. Deku tried to dodge it away. He barely missed, but Brainiac was closer to Deku than he realized as he grabbed Deku by the collar of his shirt and knee him into the stomach repeatedly, then proceed to strike Deku in the face several times as he threw him across the street, as Deku looked like a ragdoll skidding across the ground until his momentum was stopped. Heading the building, as the building begins to fall onto his, well, basically crush. The building was breaking down, basically, collapse on itself. That's what the world is looking for. Well, one of the Brainiac units slowly walks towards Deku as he sees Deku gets up to his feet. I see this body of yours is far more advanced than the one I fought prior. Of course it is. You lower life form. I had to make appropriate copies of my bodies to fight the more dangerous Earthlings on this barbaric planet. After I observe your species. Deku wiped the blood from his face with the sleeve of his coat sleeve. His cold blood has no effect on his white coat. This specific coat was made with his hair, so his very advanced ice abilities, the drawbacks with his blood, won't have any effecting on his clothing. Suddenly, ice begins to form in front of Deku as a ice golem revealed itself. When all the ice was done forming into the object it was forming into, the ice golem instantly charged forward when Deku gave the order. He simply pointed his finger at the Brainiac unit. Deku used his brief chance to catch his breath. Fighting non-stop like this is taking a toll on his body. Despite how powerful he is currently, he still's only 15 years old. He still has plenty of growing to do. Short pause, I wasn't sure how old I made him, so I'm just going to say he's 15. Let's continue. And Deku hasn't finished his training with Zuri back in Alaska, but the ice golem should keep him occupied until Deku can catch his breath and recover a little bit. Deku proceeds to extend both of his hands outwards towards Brainiac, noticing Brainiac is having trouble fighting the ice golem, but the ice golem is beginning to receive damage as cracks is beginning to form on the structure of the golem. When he saw an opening, he shot a beam of ice out of the palm of his hands. Then he immediately as the beams of ice shoot through the sky, Brainiac had to dodge a humongous fist as the ice beam hit Brainiac dead on as he begins to freeze his body as the humongous fist of the ice golem came down, ready to smash Brainiac into little pieces. As what I just described happened, Brainiac froze as the humongous ice fist shattered the ice into little ice particles. As Deku turned his attention to the sounds of battle, not too far away to see the overly buff Blonde fight the other Brainiac unit, the Blonde overtook Brainiac and threw out a smash, destroying the unit quite easy. Deku approached All Might. Not bad, whoever you are. Suddenly, something shoot out of the ship as the humongous mothership that looks like a skull with tendrils underneath it begin to fall. Shit. As Deku immediately shot out a beam of ice in both of his hands, trying to freeze the mothership, only for it to blow up whatever core it has that powers the ship from the influx of cold temperatures, making the core very unstable until the core of the ship went into critical mass and overloaded. Luckily for the civilians of Metropolis, it blew up before the mothership could get too close. It's above the city still. There's still going to be debris, but the explosion won't damage any of the buildings. It shook some glass, but outside of, you know, maybe a few blocks that don't have any windows anymore. But that's the extent of the damage of the explosion. As debris begins to fall, as Deku proceeds to shoot as many debris as he can, with ice beams out of his palm of his hand. As Deku was forced to focus on the big chunks. When all the debris was done falling, he turned his attention back towards Brainiac, fighting Superman and Supergirl. Deku was surprised when Superman found out that the body wasn't even organic. It looks organic, but it's nothing but gears and circuits and circuit boards. So that gave Superman the excuse to use more of his strength and begin to smash Brainiac all across the sky, all across the sky, like a ping ball ball with Supergirl. All Might did not stay still for too long and jump in the middle of the air and smash Brainiac across the face. Well, not the face, basically. Smash a fist into a smash, basically, into Brainiac's stomach. Deku popped out his wings and appeared right above Brainiac, then kicked him back down towards the ground, forcing Brainiac to head towards Superman, who's close enough to clothesline him in midair. Brainiac fell to the ground as sparks begin to fly from his body. As he slowly gets up to his feet, glaring at everyone. This doesn't compute. I don't understand. How am I losing? I thought this body would be efficient. You might have bested me this time, Kryptonian and humans. But this is only the beginning. I'll be back one day. This is not the last time you've heard of Brainiac. Brainiac begins to glow bright as everyone begins to shield their eyes. Gonna blow as Deku screams out. Deku creates a very thick ice dome over Brainiac. When his self-destruct went off, you could see cracks in the ice dome as the huge explosion let out extreme heat. But to everyone's surprise, the ice is not melting, it's only cracking from the force of the explosion. Deku's ice has always been different. It never melts. Whatever he creates with his ice will never melt even in a hot day outside. But that doesn't mean that explosion is harmless. Deku was thus lucky that his dome of ice was thick enough to withstand the huge full wrath of the explosion going off. If he didn't train his ice abilities to the extent he has in Alaska, that explosion would have overtook his dome and killed everyone here. As the dome finally starts to crack little by little bit, until the dome was completely destroyed, turning to ice particles, while the three heroes were discussing what they're going to do with all the debris scattered all across Metropolis, Deku left without being noticed. He observed the observed the severely damaged Brainiac bots scattered all across that weren't destroyed when the mothership and Brainiac was destroyed. all the other Brainiacs that were still active shut down, as the local police department was gathering them up, until several unmarked vehicles drove and stopped by and flashed some sort of badge to the officers and confiscated all the evidence and loaded up all the drones onto the back of their trucks. Deku was too tired to investigate. Deku suspects the military or a private force, but he's too exhausted to get involved. And that's probably not a good sign. They're taking all the remaining intact Brainiac bots, but he's too tired at the moment, so he head back to his hotel and flopped down to his bed and fell asleep instantly. That's it for right now. Hope you guys have a good night and day, judged by time zones, and I'll catch you in the next video.